topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Camping Show. I'm CW Getz.
And I'm Willow Munson.
It's Wednesday, February 9th, 2022, and we have a 40-degree, actually it says 38, but I'm telling you it's warmer than that. It's 40-degree breezy evening here near Chicago today. I think it really got about probably 45 at some point, so it was a beautiful day. A little breezy. It started a little breeze when I was in town doing a little shopping, grocery shopping, but I can tell you it was fast. When it came up fast, it was chilly when I came outside. Didn't do a coat on the way in, but I needed one on the way out. But yeah, hey, I understand we're going to have like 85 degrees next week though. So we're looking forward to that.
I
totally made that up. How's your weather down there in Pennsylvania?
Well, today was the first day where it hit 50, which is really exciting because it's been below freezing for the past couple of weeks. Nice. So I'm happy.
Yeah. Geez, you got better weather than me. Well, the deep south, you know how that goes, right?
Yeah. Deep south of Pennsylvania.
Absolutely. Well, tonight's episode is brought to you by Campground Views, making camping easier.
By Rutabaga Paddle Sports, providing time on the water.
And by Novacraft Canoe, connecting with nature since 1970. Tonight's episode is exploring the benefits of stick stoves with our special guests, Kent Herring and Summer Nitsch. Willow, could you please tell us a little about Kent and Summer?
Kent Herring is an advocate for human-powered travel and focuses his outdoor adventures on the silent sports of backpacking, cycling, kayaking, and winter camping. Along with his bride of 50 years, he pedaled across America twice and delights in walking and paddling in seldom visited wilderness areas. He lives near his favorite place to explore, the Boundary Waters Canoe Area, wilderness of northern Minnesota, I should say. Prior to discovering his passion for outdoor adventure, Kent was a sergeant in the United States Marine Corps. He returned to college under the GI Bill and became an electrical engineer for air traffic control operations with the Federal Aviation Administration. His introduction into outdoor recreation created new opportunities for him, and he became an inventor. Invention has long been a passion in his life, and those who know him well believe that he has never bought something that he hasn't modified. He was granted a patent on his favorite invention, the Littlebugstove, which led him to become an entrepreneur and the CEO of Littlebug Enterprises. And then, with over 20 years of professional experience in sales and marketing, Summer Nitsch has worked with companies in the pharmaceutical industry as well as in national cinema advertising, and has also held executive positions in a number of advertising agencies. Summer's national and international marketing experience has given her the ability to thoroughly evaluate a business from multiple angles for the purpose of providing creative and effective solutions to increasing the company's visibility and marketing effectiveness. Summer's current role as the owner and creative director of Superior Effect Marketing is where she was first introduced to Kent Herring and Littlebug stoves. Outside of the business world, Summer is an avid outdoor enthusiast and adventurer who enjoys camping, kayaking, backpacking, whitewater rafting, hiking, and horseback riding. Notably, Summer has also ziplined in 7 countries and downhill skied in 4 countries.
Well, with that, welcome to the show, Kent and Summer.
Welcome, guys.
Hello. Hello, CW.
How are you doing? How's your weather in Minnesota?
Well, not quite as warm as yours, but it's a real break for us. We actually got above freezing the other day.
Oh, wow. Whoa. No 50s up there, though. Right?
Yeah. Of course, now it's all ice again, but
yeah.
Spring is coming.
Yeah. Well, Willow's down there in flip-flops, I'm sure, in 50 degrees.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Crocs is my
preferred. I do
preferred.
that to get my mail, actually. I've worn flip-flops to the mailbox here before. And through the snow.
And they didn't take you away, huh?
No, you're a camper. You just do stuff like that, I guess, and it's sort of a winter conditioning thing, So
Yeah.
yeah. People drive by and go, "What the hell is wrong with that guy?" But yeah. Yeah. So here, go ahead, Willow.
Well, I wanted to start off by asking, what's the reason stick stoves have become so popular now?
Well, I get a lot of comments from people who buy Littlebug stoves, and they always want to tell me why they bought it. And the vast majority of the comments that I get is they bought it because they saw somebody else using one, or that somebody they trusted talked to them about it and introduced them to it. But, maybe at a deeper level, it could be rooted in rediscovering our ancient connection to fire. Fire it's warmed us, it's cooked our meals, it's protected us, it's promoted social interaction. It's an integral part of who we are as human beings. But, there's also a sense of romance connected with being outdoors and cooking a meal over a wood stove or over a wood fire. But, at the end of a long, hard day, that can be a lot of work. And stick stoves make it simpler and more efficient to cook your meal using wood compared to doing it over an open fire. And I also think that people are recognizing the advantage of not having to buy and carry fuel. What are some of your thoughts on that, Summer?
Well, I definitely agree. There's something with that fire that I think really connects with people. Who doesn't love to smell, even a bonfire? But if you can cook your food over a wood fire, it just adds a little something extra. Kind of on maybe a slightly different note, in something that we identified, as we've been working together and promoting, as my company's been promoting Littlebug stoves, is people really looking for something that is quick and easy, uses natural resources. They don't have to have, a lot of extra supplies in the time of need. So if it's, we hear about all of these natural disasters. We hear about people that are really, keeping these go bags ready to go if the time arises. So I think it's also creeping into people that just really want to be prepared and not have to rely on heavy equipment or heavy supplies to tote around with them. If you're able to get the fuel by hiking in the woods and collecting sticks, twigs, grass, your natural resources, I think it just resonates a lot more with just the population really across the world.
I think that makes perfect sense, and I like the whole compactness feature of these things. I saw the folded down like that. I'm like, wow, that takes up next to no room. Really, it's beautiful. How did the Littlebug camp stove come to be? Kent, what was that? How did that happen?
Well, the seeds for the Littlebug stove were planted when I managed to survive my very first backpacking trip. Now, I have a really strong desire for quiet and solitude, and so I decided that I was going to do this walkabout in the wilderness by myself. Now, the downside of doing that is that means I have to carry everything.
Everything.
Yeah, there's no such thing as say, hey, you carry the tent poles and you carry the stove and you carry the fuel and all that stuff. So by the time I was loaded up, my pack weighed over 65 pounds.
Oh, wow.
And I'm not that big a guy, I could not pick the pack up and sling it onto my shoulders. I had to hoist it up and put it on a rock or a fallen tree and then back into it and slip myself into the harness. And so after I got done with that, my holy grail became trying to find ways to carry less stuff. And it occurred to me that it didn't make sense to carry stuff that nature provided. Now, nobody in their right mind would try to carry all the water that they need for a 10-day trip. It's probably physically impossible. But you don't have to because the water is available where I go anyway. So the next step was realizing, well, why am I carrying the fuel for my stoves if nature provides it? I'm surrounded with fuel. So that began the search for a stick stove. Actually, I just wanted to buy one. I wasn't really looking to build one, but that was over 30 years ago, and they just weren't available, right? There wasn't anything worth buying out there.
Right.
So I started trying to put one together, and I had a lot of failures. In fact, my bride, Betsy, has my failures on display on the top of her kitchen cabinets on 3 walls of the kitchen. And there's a lot of failures there. But, not every failure is complete. In fact, none of them are a total failure. Because every one of those steps brought me closer to the Littlebug stove that you see today. And then over the years, I found a lot of ways to reduce the weight of my pack. Now, when I go on a 10-day walkabout, my pack weighs about 35 pounds.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. I find that the less I carry, the more I enjoy the walk.
Yeah, absolutely. Isn't that the truth, though? I mean, if it's too much work, it sort of sucks the fun right out of it, doesn't it?
It does. And it also increases the chance of injury.
That's right.
And can turn a good trip into a bad one really fast.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? And it's one thing that can happen with more than one person. But when it happens with one person, that puts you in some serious it's serious risk. Let's put it that way. Won't say danger, but risk. Yeah, for sure. That's an attractive looking stove. Let's put that, if you can put that back. Yeah, look at that thing. I like that. Let me ask you, how many different designs did you go through before you ended up with that one right there we just saw?
Well, probably too many to count. In the beginning, I attempted to make a rectangular folding stove.
Okay.
And, back in those days too, I didn't have any skills working with metal, and I didn't have any proper tools to work with it. And so I'm trying to drill a hole in the sheet metal with a power drill, and it grabs the piece of sheet metal and flings it around. And I almost lost my thumb. And I'm thinking, I had a lot to learn, but about just working with the material, let alone what would make a good stove. But that first stove, it didn't fold well, and it took forever to boil water. So at the same time, at home, I had this chimney charcoal starter that I used for barbecues. And I was just really impressed with how efficient it was and how much heat that thing could put out. And so I'm wondering, how can I make a stove that uses that chimney effect, but yet is still packable?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And so I came up with an idea for having interlockable side edges for the chimney, so it could be dismantled and the two pieces could nest in each other. And that really is the heart of the patent that I was granted in the development of the stoves. But later on, the manufacturer I was working with challenged me to see if I could change the pot supports, because originally they were made out of steel wire, and he didn't have the tooling to work with forming the wire. So he wanted to see if we could make them out of just sheet metal. And so I worked with that for a while and came up with a design that turned out to be much more versatile than the original steel wires. Plus, it made for a more compact stove when it was packed for transport.
Right.
Yeah. And the last real major modification I did to the stove itself was to make it reconfigurable for using commercially available alcohol burners.
Oh, yeah.
So most of those require a good windscreen and a good pot support to function well. And the Littlebug stove, with just a minor reassembly, lends itself really well to providing that kind of features for an alcohol burner.
That is ingenious. And you thought of everything. It sounds like you thought of everything. I mean, you really thought that. Let me ask you really quickly, and then Willow's she's probably like, hey, it's my turn. Yeah, but how many sleepless nights and how much alcohol did you go through with? I'm joking, of course. But maybe you did. I don't know. More power to you if you did.
Well, not so much with the alcohol, but a lot of sleepless nights.
I can imagine.
There's a blessing and a curse that goes along with being an inventor. And one of them, the curse is that your mind never shuts down sometimes. And so I'd find myself getting ideas in the middle of the night. I'd wake up with this really neat idea, and in the morning, I can't remember what it is, right? So I ended up always putting a pencil and a tablet of paper next to me by the bed so I could scribble it down, because I knew these were really great ideas, and I wanted to remember them.
Ken, have you heard the old thing about musicians? They wake up in the middle of the night with these songs going through their head. They've got a little tape recorder right next to the nightstand there, or their lyrics, and they've got a little pen like that. That's what they do too. I think that anyone who's creative has to have that little tool or tools there to work with, because it's like you said, you forget it in the morning, and it could have been the top brilliant idea, right?
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I have to ask you, where did you come up with the name Littlebug?
Oh, well, one day I was working on a stove in the garage, trying to solve this really vexing problem I had encountered with the design. And my little 3-year-old daughter, Shanti, came out to the garage, and she wanted my attention. Well, kids can be pretty insistent, and she wasn't going to take no for an answer. and I realized that I wasn't making any headway on solving this problem, and I wasn't going to solve it with Shanti out there bugging me. So I just stopped working on a stove, and I laughed, and I started calling her Littlebug, and we played together. But then, about a week or so later, I was looking down on one of the prototypes that was on the floor in the garage. And this was back when the pot supports were made out of steel wire. And the wires formed the face of a bug. I saw the 2 eyes of the bug and the antenna. And I just put that image together with my nickname for Shanti. And that's how Littlebug got its name.
Now, when you saw that
cute
bug,
name.
When you saw that bug, was that with or without the bourbon? I'm just wondering. No,
you keep on wanting me to drink.
Yeah, he has that bottle.
He does the same thing to me, Ken, all the time.
Oh, that's great. I'm just teasing, of course, but that's pretty cool.
Well, and it's I will say with the name Littlebug, it has been a fun thing to come up with little mnemonics. It's been really fun to market. And when Kent came to us, the little the Firefly Littlebug, it was fun to work with animating that and the name and just how it came about. Has just been super fun to market, aside from just its overall practicality and usefulness.
Yeah, and it's a fun name. I mean, it is a fun name, and it lends itself, like you said, to a lot of marketing possibilities that you could use. Yeah, graphics and things like that. That's very cool. I may have touched on this a little bit earlier, Kent, but what modifications have been made to your original design?
Oh, I think I just pretty much covered that with the starting out with the square stove and then changing the pot supports and making it usable with alcohol. Those are pretty much the major modifications that took place with the stove.
Okay.
And the rest of it is just coming up with some accessories, and maybe we can get into that a little later in the show.
Sure, absolutely, absolutely.
Well, why don't we take the opportunity to take a commercial break, but don't go away. We'll be back with more of The Camping Show on W4CY Radio and Talk 4 TV after these messages.
It's time to go camping. Introducing Campground View's virtual tours. You can tour the campground, see the sites, see if they are available, and click to book your perfect spot. Hit the open road and explore the amazing places found in nature. We make it easy to discover, find, and book your site so that you can go have the fun and freedom you seek. Campground View's virtual tours make it easy and simple for you to see where you are going.
A few years ago, someone asked Rutabaga's owner, Darren Bush, "Hey, how long have you guys been selling boats?" Darren replied, "Well, we don't sell boats. We sell time on the water." Of course, that comes in all types. We help people paddle more safely with Rutabaga outdoor programs. We rent canoes, kayaks, and stand-up paddleboards. We sell and install racks to get you from home to adventure. Rutabaga's got everything you need to get you out on the water, like paddles, life jackets, dry bags, and clothing. Rutabaga Paddle Sports, on the web at rutabaga.com. Mention you saw this ad on The Camping Show.
There's nothing like being out there. For over 50 years, we've been connecting people with nature by building classic Canadian canoe designs using the best materials available. We built a reputation on durable, dependable canoes that allow you to focus on what's important, whether that's unplugging in remote wilderness, spending quality time with your favorite people, or nailing the perfect line. Visit novacraft.com to find the perfect canoe for you and locate your nearest authorized dealer.
And we're back with our guests, Kent Herring and Summer Nitsch on The Camping Show. Typically, how much lighter is a stick stove compared to a gas or gasoline stove? And we've got those charts here we can go ahead and put up, Roxy. Here we go.
Yeah, well, there are many stick stoves that claim to be light and in reality are actually heavier than gas stoves. But when you're using gas stoves, you got to look at the whole package that's necessary. It's not just the stove. It includes the fuel canisters, possibly spare parts, maintenance kits, special tools, windscreens. And although you may choose to leave some of these items off of your list, you kind of do so at your own risk. And typically, though, the stove itself isn't the heaviest item in your package. It's the fuel and the fuel canisters. And of course, if you don't pack enough fuel, your stove will become a worthless piece of hardware that you got to lug around, right? So just to be safe, that means you're going to carry a little bit more fuel than you think you're going to need. So there's even more weight and space. But I did a comparison between Littlebug stoves and petroleum-fueled stoves. And if we can go back to the red bar graph, that's the one about weight. The packages that I use probably won't match the ones that you might be using or interested in, but I think that this graph will give you a sense of the weight and space advantages that Littlebug stoves can provide. The bottom line is that liquid gas stove package is more than 3 times heavier than our biggest stove, the Littlebug Senior Stove, and it's actually over 11 times heavier than the Littlebug Junior Stove. Wow. And if you use a butane propane stove package, that's about 2.5 times heavier than the Littlebug Senior Stove, and over 9 times heavier than the Littlebug Junior Stove.
Wow. Quite a bit. What a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing.
It was interesting, and I'm glad, you asked the question too about the weight, not of just the stove itself, but the fuel that you would need to carry if you're not utilizing or using a stick or twig stove. And I was noticing during the show, there was a number of people that were, popping up there exactly how big and how heavy their packs were. And this is definitely a very important consideration to take in mind.
Let's see if I can do this without kicking myself off the show, because I've done that before. Let's see here. Where was it at? Cooking with fire is just plain fun. Yes, so it is. Lightweight too. 35 camper 69. 35 pounds is what I'm aiming for, and that's what you ended up with, wasn't it, Ken?
It was very close to it. Yep.
Yeah. Mustang 774. I travel with less than 30 pounds, usually 26 pounds. Yeah. So these guys are. Hey, somebody wants to know if Littlebug gets royalties for this, by the way. Camper 69 the name. But yeah, these guys, and weight is an issue. It really is. And nobody wants to carry extra stuff that I know, because I've done it the wrong way. So yeah.
Yeah,
No,
but
the
it's
fuel
not just
is big.
not just the weight, but the space requirements are an important factor too.
Right.
And I took a look at that in the same comparison, and I take a look at my notes here, and it says if you were going to stow the Littlebug stove inside your pack and compare it to a liquid gas stove, the gas stove would take like 6.5 times more space than the Littlebug Senior and over 9 times more pack space than the Junior stove.
Yeah. Wow.
And the same similar things for butane, propane. Yeah, that's the green graph. If you want to take a quick look at that, it shows how the weights are or the space requirements
there you go.
compare. It just gets really big compared to the Littlebug Junior stoves.
Yeah, I like that. That's quite a big difference.
It is,
Yeah.
especially after several miles too.
Oh gosh. And the portage thing just comes to mind right off the bat.
Absolutely.
So, can you tell us about each of the models of stoves you manufacture and also the accessories that are available for each model?
Sure. We make 2 stove models, the Littlebug Junior and the Littlebug Senior. They are identical in form and function, just different in size. The Junior weighs about 5.1 ounces and works best for 1 to 2 people. And so it's my personal favorite. But the Littlebug Senior weighs about 19 ounces and can easily support a 6-quart cast iron Dutch oven. And it's intended for larger groups.
Wow.
Yeah. But each model has the same accessories. We make a firebolt accessory that's to promote our commitment to leave no trace camping ethics.
Nice.
And it protects the ground from heat damage and from burn scars if you're trying to use the stove in an area that does not have an established fire ring. And it also provides something that's unique amongst stick stoves. It comes with a set of stainless steel ball chains that allows you to actually hang or suspend the stove so you can cook standing up instead of kneeling down on the ground. Now,
That's a beautiful thing. That is a beautiful thing, man.
Especially as we get older, you know.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Willow might not know this yet. It'll be really important when you get older.
Yeah.
I was going to say all these features, Summer, it makes your job really easy.
It does. Absolutely.
That's genius.
This inconvenient or unconventional configuration came to me because I was doing winter camping and my stove would freeze to the ground overnight. And it would freeze really hard. So suspending it just made a lot of sense. But, a lot of people initially look at the idea and they think it's kind of a hokey idea. But I think if you tried it, you'll see the benefits that comes from suspending the stove.
Yeah.
And then we also offer pouches for the stove and a device that I call a pot sling. The pot sling is a device that allows you to adjust the space between the bottom of your pot and the top of an alcohol burner so that you can optimize and be the most efficient you can possibly be in using your fuel consumption. And so those are pretty much all of the accessories that we offer for our stoves.
Kent, I'm going to ask you one quick question. I know because Willow's got another one here before we go to the next commercial break. But how much weight does that chain support? I mean, are people able to put like this big cast iron thing on something like that, or what weight capacity does that chain hold you?
The chains are rated at 40 pounds.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and there's 3 of them. So yeah,
you could pull a 4-wheel drive truck out of it. No, that's very good. That's impressive. I wasn't expecting that answer, so that's very good.
Yeah.
Hey, what are the dimensions of that fire pan too? I was going to ask you that.
Well, it has to be a little bit wider diameter than the stove, and like the large senior stove has about an 8-inch diameter, so it's close to 10 inches in diameter when you put it together.
Okay.
But it uses the very same features that I got with my patent about using interlockable edges, so the pieces come apart.
Okay, so that's not one big piece. That thing.
No.
Oh, that's beautiful.
In fact, it'll actually fit in the same pouch that the
amazing.
stove itself can fit in.
It's amazing. It's a wonder you slept at all when you were putting it on. I mean, that's ingenious. I mean, that's fantastic. My father is an inventor in California, and he would just love talking to you. In fact, I think I may hook you two up.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, this is wonderful.
So, what considerations are important when you're choosing a stick stove?
Oh, that's easy. You just have to choose a Littlebug stove, and you
Yeah.
you get everything
like
that's
that.
important. Really, seriously, no stove is best in everything. Every design is a compromise between competing factors. Can the smallest stove be the hottest stove? Can the lightest stove be the most rugged stove? Can the least expensive stove be the best value? Well, probably not. And so Summer and I have a list of a lot of considerations that we think are important if you're looking to buy a stick stove. And so I'd like to run through some of those with you if you can. First would be the firebox size and shape. Why is this important? It's because the size of the firebox determines how much wood you can put in the stove, which in turn determines how much heat you can get out of the stove and how often you have to add wood to keep the fire going. But some of these stoves are so small that if you wanted to start the stove and then go set up your tent, you got to be careful, because if you come back a little bit later, you have to start all over again. So a large firebox really is important.
Yeah.
Plus, it also helps make for a very clean burn, because there's plenty of room for air to circulate amongst the wood.
Yeah.
And then it also will determine how much ash can build up in the stove before it starts losing air and becomes inefficient, and how much effort is actually required to process the firewood, because if you got to do lots and lots of small pieces, that's going to take more time than a stove that can handle larger pieces. Mm-hmm. And then how the stove distributes the heat. Is it evenly distributed across the bottom of your pot, or are there hot spots? So size and shape, firebox, are important considerations. Another one would be assembled size. The assembled size pretty much determines how well your stove performs. How stable it is, how often you have to refuel it, how convenient it is to cook on, how much it weighs, and the size of the pots that you can put on it. A lot of stoves require that you have their special pot to fit on the stove, and Littlebug stoves, you can use pretty much anything.
Yeah.
That's a really important feature.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then besides assembled size, the pack size and shape, that's pretty important too. The size and shape, when stowed for transport, influences how much of that valuable space in your pack you have to give up for your stove. Mm-hmm. Or maybe there's a way you can carry it that's different, like not in your pack at all, like rolled up in your sleeping pad. You can do that with the Littlebug stove. Wow. When we designed the Littlebug stove, we tried to make the assembled size as large as possible and make the packed size as small as possible. And with the Littlebug Junior stove, we accomplished this with like a 91% size reduction between assembled and packed. Now, you won't find another stick stove on the market that can do anything like that.
No.
Yeah.
It's I say ingenious. We had a real quick question. What was the one about? There we go. How does the design of the cylinder stove compare to a square stove? And I think you may have addressed that earlier. It's probably you're losing heat on the corners. Am I correct?
Well,
on the cylinder.
The cylinder is what gives the chimney effect. And it's smooth all the way around, so you don't have the turbulence that you'd have with something that has corners. And so that, I think, is the main advantage of using a cylinder.
Yeah. Kevin Kellen had a quick question, and I know Willow's going to take us into a commercial or a comment here. Hi, Kent. I love your stove. I had I had my students burning it today in the woods. Great boil time. Yeah, and I've used those chimneys with was a charcoal patio griller. I used to do that a lot. And those chimneys are fantastic. And if that's the method by which your stove operates, that's fantastic. That's genius.
It is.
Okay, guys, on that note, we're going to take a break, but don't go away. We'll be back with more of The Camping Show on W4CY Radio and Talk 4 TV after these messages.
It's time to go camping. Introducing Campground View's virtual tours. You can tour the campground, see the sights, see if they are available, and click to book your perfect spot. Hit the open road and explore the amazing places found in nature. We make it easy to discover, find, and book your site so that you can go have the fun and freedom you seek. Campground View's virtual tours make it easy and simple for you to see where you are going.
A few years ago, someone asked Rutabaga's owner, Darren Bush, "Hey, how long have you guys been selling boats?" Darren replied, "We don't sell boats. We sell time on the water." Of course, that comes in all types. We help people paddle more safely with Rutabaga outdoor programs. We rent canoes, kayaks, and stand-up paddleboards. We sell and install racks to get you from home to adventure. Rutabaga's got everything you need to get you out on the water, like paddles, life jackets, dry bags, and clothing. Rutabaga Paddle Sports, on the web at rutabaga.com. Mention you saw this ad on The Camping Show.
There's nothing like being out there. For over 50 years, we've been connecting people with nature by building classic Canadian canoe designs using the best materials available. We built a reputation on durable, dependable canoes that allow you to focus on what's important, whether that's unplugging in remote wilderness, spending quality time with your favorite people, or nailing the perfect line. Visit novacraft.com to find the perfect canoe for you and locate your nearest authorized dealer.
And we're back with our guests, Ken Herring and Summer Nitsch, here on The Camping Show. And we are running down to about 10 minutes here, but we've got some photos. So, Roxy, could you put Ken's photos up there? We'll have him tell us a little about each of them.
And I'm going to have Summer do the narrations on the photos.
On most of them, Kent, I might have you whip in on a couple of them.
Okay.
All right. Well, this first photo, I think, really explains and demonstrates how the stove is taken apart. And it almost allows for you to visualize how light it is when you look at just, the four pieces. And that adds to the simplicity. And that's kind of one of our taglines, rugged simplicity. And Kent has mentioned that a few different times. And you'll see the different notches and all of that. And when you actually have it in your hands, it is actually really easy to put together. And I can vouch for that because in my marketing agency, when I've had interns, I like to throw this at them and it's almost kind of like a contest between them. Who can assemble it faster? And they become really good at it. So, and then I think this also, if you want to do the next picture.
Summer, we have a saying. It's called idiot proof. I used to do that a lot with when I had my furniture shop. Those two pieces on the last photo, those little small ones, is that the grate where the pots? Okay, I wondered about that. Yeah.
Yep.
That's beautiful. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No problem. So, you can kind of see then in the next picture how Kent designed it to easily wrap around a bedroll, which then allows you to kind of pack that on the outside. Again, really minimizing the weight and the space. That is very, very valuable for anybody that's enjoying the outdoors. What's our next photo here? Here it is set up. And just like what you were saying there, CW, those two smaller ones go inside and they form that grate. And then you can see, as Kent was talking about just, the nature of fire and, that cylindrical movement with it, how it can really quickly heat up whatever it's cooking. For example, the water. I'm always bad at remembering the exact numbers. I want to say Littlebug Jr., is it 2 to 3 minutes to boil water, Kent?
No, it's 4 to 6.
4 to 6. 4 to 6 minutes on the Littlebug Jr. to bring a pot of water to boil, which is pretty quick, especially if you're thinking of winter camping and that as well. So
definitely.
And this is the fire bowl in action. You can see, again, just the two pieces put together. And, that, again, prevents and follows those principles with the leave no trace. So it does help prevent any, of that heat scarring that can happen on the earth. And we'll do the next picture here. Just another little different variation, closer look up to it. Kent, anything you want to add with these in particular?
Yes, if you notice in this picture, the pot supports are sticking up above the top of the firebox. And that's the configuration that you should use when you're burning wood. Now, one of the earlier ones showed the pot supports down near the top of the stove. And that's the configuration for using alcohol.
Okay, I wonder.
And you just flip the pot supports over and use the same holes, or there's also another set of holes a little bit farther down so that you can get it even closer to the top of your alcohol burner.
Nice. And the beautiful thing about these, I'm assuming you don't need a windscreen because it's built in. I mean, it's right.
That's right. The holes are only in the front half. The back half is solid, so you can just rotate it, and you do have your own windscreen.
That's marvelous.
That's a great point, and one that we had meant to bring up as well when you talk about considerations for choosing a stick stove. Many of the stick stoves and many of the stoves in general, you may have to purchase and pack an extra windscreen when you're looking at adverse weather conditions, because Lord knows we've all been out on those trips outdoors, and the weather for some reason doesn't always cooperate. So
absolutely,
that's a really important characteristic.
Donald G. Kelly, this is the first time. This is the first time I've heard of these stoves. I'm going to have to get one and try it out. I like the way they come apart and pack away, that's for sure. Thanks, Don. Thanks for the Casey, I'm always I always pack an alcohol stove, Trianga, and to use for my stick stove in case it rains every day. Your stoves work. Didn't get to the end of that one. Your stoves come apart, that's not the one. But yes. Yes.
Is that the same in the U.S.? Let's see. Oh, this is that we're talking about the fire ban and that too.
Fire ban. Yeah. Yep. Ontario, Canada, stick stove is still considered an open flame during the fire ban here. Is that the same in the U.S.? And that was one of our questions.
That kind of ties into a question I was going to ask. Like, can Littlebug camp stoves be used when the fire danger is high?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is possible for you to convert the stove to alcohol so that you can minimize the danger of starting a fire from sparks and embers. But it's really important that you understand what the governing regulations are for stoves in the area in which you are at.
Yeah. Because
sometimes they're very restrictive, and they want a stove that has a valve, which means you got to have a gas stove. And I don't understand why they consider that safer than an alcohol stove, but just be aware that in some places you wouldn't be allowed to use it.
Yeah. So we got some more pictures, I think, a few more.
Yeah, we'll flash through them. There we go. Just showing, how the pot sits on top of it. And there's all different types of accessories and pots and pans that you can use. We actually feature quite a few in our blogs on the website. So we can look at the next picture here. Here, this is what we were talking about, being able to suspend it.
Nice.
So you can see, whatever height Mother Nature is also allowing you. And I think Kent has kind of had some neat things. He's used, different hiking sticks and that kind of can also help facilitate raising that stove up so you can prevent the need of having to bend over or keep it up off the ground during the winter. So we'll look at the next picture. What are we doing here? This is Kent.
That guy. Yeah. I love it. I love that.
Well, that's the stove suspended inside my tarp. Yep.
Yeah. Yep. That's
Kent,
a
I
great
think
one.
I've seen that picture on a movie somewhere before. I swear that.
Wow.
Very famous.
I should be so lucky. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, this is actually, she started as an intern with me and then continued to do some writing. And she fell in love with the Littlebug stove and brought it out to Colorado when she moved out there.
Wow.
And so we always tell her, whenever you're using it, snap some pictures, send it our way, because we know you've got those mountain views. And here we go, Brussels sprouts.
Beautiful.
And potatoes.
Love it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Here we've got Kent.
That's the
Doing a
same
little bit
movie
more
star
work.
we saw in the last one, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. He looks familiar.
Right.
Hey, well, that's the cheapest model I could find.
Yeah. I love it. I love it.
And just
Those are
showing
some pretty
us.
big sticks there too. Those are pretty good sized sticks. Yeah.
Yeah, you just drop them in on end,
Yeah.
and you don't have to take the pot off to do that. A lot of stoves, you always have to take the pot or slide it off to the side
Exactly.
so you
Yeah.
can put more sticks in.
Exactly.
There we go, showing that using those pot slings to put the pot down inside with a, I believe it was is there an alcohol burner down below it, Kent?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Oh, who doesn't love bacon cooking out in the wilderness? I mean, seriously. This was actually out at my parents' lake out in Minnesota.
Yeah.
And
I love it. Soda.
that was a Memorial Day weekend adventure. So that was fun. And yeah, we get a lot of nice, fun pictures that people will send us. I'm not even certain who this gentleman is, but he sent us the picture to go ahead and use. There you've got quite a big pot that you're cooking over top with. So he must be making something good there. All right, what have we got? Here's the winter one.
Wow.
Tripod. Nice.
Yep. And that is cooking it up hot. And yeah. And the one thing too, I was going to point out, this stove, when we talk about winter camping, is super easy to assemble when you have gloves on. So another kind of critical aspect, if you are a big winter advocate or winter camping advocate, you want something that you can assemble with those gloves on, especially if it's like cold out.
Well, and the nice thing, Roxy says 2 more pictures. The nice thing about that is when you put a hot stove in the snow, you have to have something underneath that stove is going to sink. And this way, you don't have to do that. You can hang it from a tree or a good limb, or that tripod. If you got a tripod, man, that's beautiful. I love that. That's awesome.
Oh, here we go.
Yum.
This is again from our friend out in Colorado. Oh, maybe she's making some peppers and onions for some fajitas. But it just shows really the ease of it, and that's just the sky's the limit, really.
Cool.
That's all we've got.
Yep.
Wow. And Summer, where can our viewers and listeners go to learn more about Littlebug camp stoves?
I would say go to our website, www.littlebug.com. Please take note of the name. It's little without the E. So Littlebug, LITTLBUG.com.
Little.
Yeah. And we have lots of great reviews. We write blogs that really cover all of camping and outdoor. One other thing I do like to keep note of is Kent is very... Mother Nature and Earth and its inhabitants are at the forefront always, and he donates at least 10% of profits and follows those principles of leave no trace. So we do like to let viewers and the people that believe in Littlebug or considering Littlebug know that piece as well. You're giving back to Mother Nature and giving back to our planet. So
I'm glad you made us aware of that. That's excellent. Thank you so much, Summer. And I'll tell you something. Cliff Jacobson has nothing but praise for your stoves, and if it passes the Cliff test, that's quite a feat. And so very good. Kudos to you.
He's one of the trusted people. Yes,
absolutely. Yeah, he's a great guy. He knows his equipment, man, and what's good and what's not for sure.
He does.
You got A+. So. Well, we'd like to thank you both, Kent and Summer, for being our guests here on the camping show this evening. It was a pleasure having you here with us, both of you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for making this fun. and for giving us
Thank you for doing the same.
For some reason, I want to have a bourbon or something right now. I don't know.
Don't know where that came from. Can't understand why.
Yeah, well, I hope that our audience finds the information useful.
Yeah, I'm sure they do. Yeah.
We'd also like to thank our sponsors, Campground Views, Rutabaga Paddle Sports, and Nova Craft Canoe for bringing you tonight's show.
Be sure to tune in for next week's episode, Adventuring by Snowshoe, with our special guest, Dave Hatfeld.
Until then, thank you. Oh, I'm sorry.
Nope, not my fault.
Cut you off.
I'm all messed up here from the bourbon. Yeah, but go ahead.
Well, until then, thank you for tuning into the camping show.
This is C.W. Getz.
And Willow Munson.
Reminding you,
Learn more.
do more. See you next week.
Bye, guys.